Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Data and Donuts. My name's Aaron. I'm here with my colleague and friend, Dr. Dana Emerson, and we're here today to talk about a very important subject matter to both of us and to what should be the center focal point in many colleges. We're going to be talking about DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so Dr. Emerson is willing to share some of her points, her perspectives, and her experiences with us as we start this journey together. So before we get into the interview, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself, Dr. Emerson?
All right. Well, hello. I'm Dana Emerson. I am a Dean of Instruction at Coastline College. I'm also an Umoja co-coordinator at the college, but overall, I am the Umoja coordinator for the district. I have a steep background in diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I like to add in the social justice work. I do a lot of work, not only within the state of California with the Village Demands, but I also do work in this area across the entire country, working with multiple organizations, universities, and colleges that are looking for ways to engage diversity, equity, inclusion, and social justice work and really implement it into their daily practices, policies, and processes. So I'm super happy to be here. Let's do this.
Excellent, excellent. And I'm going to add social justice into our question with our first question is, how would you describe diversity, equity, inclusion, and social justice? What you and I have both seen is some people try to throw it all together, but there are different nuances and just components of each and how they really work together. And if you can kind of describe it in the lens for us as higher education professionals.
Yeah, okay, so this is really good, right? Because I always think of diversity as the metric, right? And so when we're looking at the diversity, equity, inclusion, social justice, diversity is always the metric. Like, how are we measuring our equity and inclusion efforts? We look at the diversity, right, of the population, of the organization, of students, of our service area, the community, things of that nature. So diversity is always the metric. Equity is what we need, right, in order to create an inclusive environment, right? So when we're talking about inclusion, we're talking about access to everyone, open access or equal access to opportunities. And again, if we're thinking about how we would measure that, how do we know we are accomplishing this? We go and look at the diversity, right, of the populations that we serve. And so then social justice then is really that lens that we put on our policies, right, our practices and our processes to make sure that we are being just with the society that we serve so that inclusion can happen, right? That we're being equitable and that we can measure it through diversity. So that's how I see it all, you know.
That's awesome. That's awesome how everything's just perfectly blended together, and it's weaved in a way that we can really see how everything works to help move forward and how we're using that as a framework to help as we create our colleges, processes, policies to help understand, are we being inclusive? Are those outcomes where they are? Is there diversity in that? And as that reflective? So I think that, and like I said, we both work together. Being, equity is our core of our institution, our number one goal. And I really think this is a message that we would love to just continue to share across our institution to build that understanding and the like. So thank you so much for that definition. And that really brought a lot of insight to that. And so going on to question 2, what considerations as we start looking at the diversity data, as we start looking at the equity and how things are panning out with the outcomes and the access and the like, what considerations do we need to take when we're looking at our diversity, equity, inclusion, and social justice data? What would you recommend?
Yeah, so this is really, really interesting, right? So I'm going to approach this from an equity audit kind of mindset, right? Because right now I'm working on an equity audit tool that hopefully we will use all around the state of California and community colleges, one that is specifically designed for community colleges. And the considerations when we're collecting and analyzing data that reflects our diversity, equity, inclusion, and social justice work, we have to look beyond the metrics of race and gender. We really do. And we really have to look beyond what's happening inside the institution as community colleges, as open access institutions, we have to measure what happens outside of our institution as well, because the community part of our institution is beyond the walls of the institution. So, for example, if we're putting into place initiatives that are designed to uplift, right, put a lift in, let's say, the numbers or opportunities of students of color into STEM fields, we can look at that and see, yes, we have classes, right? We have counseling, we have workforce development opportunities for them, and we can push them through. But then we need to go outside of the institution and then start to look and see if there's also a lift in the workforce. Can we say that we are seeing more employees, right, that are people of color that have moved through the process of the initiative to increase students of color in STEM pathways? So I think that's where we kind of get stuck, is we keep it inside the institution and we think our work is done. And that's only the smallest part of it. We have to track beyond, because the community and society is our responsibility too. So I think that's one of the things that we have to consider when we're collecting and analyzing, right? Where is this information coming from? What are we asking for? What are we looking for? And how are we pushing it not only back into the institution, but beyond it as well?
I think that is a fantastic recommendation, because a lot of the times we become so hyper focused of what we're doing internally, we don't look at the long term or the impact of things that are happening around us. And what we know is, being colleges blended within our communities, is we're here to uplift everyone and to really find the populations that may be underserved, underrepresented, or marginalized, and say, you know what, we need to push that barrier out of the way for them. We need to lift everyone up. We need to get one of our colleagues says it's like the levels of equity. Do you want equity? Do you want full equity? Like, really looking at that. And I really appreciate where you're saying that is, yeah, we might increase the success rates of students, but what does that look like in the job? What does it look like with our partners? What does it look like? What's the end game? And I really think that that's the next level, is as we start doing that, how are we influencing the outcome? Remember, college is a stepping stone to someone's lifelong success, and it could be that, but we're now saying, how can we help that next level of lifelong success? Because we can give you every credential you need, but if that market around us, we're not influencing that, how do we do that? And I completely agree, and I think that's going to be a big push, and I appreciate that. And you and I will be looking at that data as we start to, with saying, well, what's the post outcome, and what does that look like for our students, our marginalized students, our students of color, individuals entering fields where you typically may not see, like for example, students in STEM, students in a variety of fields where they're typically white male dominated. Like, how are we going to break that barrier? We need to change. And guess what? We have to change. It's just a need, it's a have to. It's no longer a nice to do, it's a have to do. And I'm glad that we're in commitment with that. So
yeah, and I think sometimes that, we use that STEM example, and sometimes for people that work within the institution, they may see that might be too big of a lift for them, right? Like, well, I don't have anything to do with the STEM areas. That's so academic, that's that. But I would say we can still look at the impact of any equity initiative that we put into place. So here's another example that I think is a really easy lift. We have food pantries that we deliver food, or we give food to students. If we are then tracking that, we should see that students in the community start to reduce those numbers, saying that I have my food insecurity now is going down, because I know that I have a place to go and get food, at least for the day, for the week. And so then when we ask them, do you have enough food for the day? The answers should start to say yes. So we should then start to see a change in that. And that is another way of looking at the lift and collecting and analyzing data that is all about diversity, equity, and inclusion and social justice. This is what I'm talking about when we say equity impact. So when I said earlier that I'm working on the equity tool, that's true. for something just for community colleges. But one thing that community colleges can also do, and we're also working on this, is the equity impact tool. How are our equity initiatives impacting the community that we serve? Not just the students, because our students are the community belongs to us. We are, right? We owe them. Their money helps us exist. We owe to keep that community uplifted. And so those are things we can look at.
Most definitely. And I think when we're looking at that impact is, it's not just a numerical metric. It's going to be the stories we capture, the students we meet.
Yeah.
We're starting to really go into the areas, as most institutions are, as well as focus groups, capturing those students' experiences beyond the numbers. And I think those are the areas, like I said, that when we start looking at our impacts to the community, what's different. And I really like when we use the basic needs when we're saying just simple things such as food. So now you're not worried about food. You can focus on other things of life and have that life expectancy and satisfaction, with your job, your school, your families, and so on and so forth, where many families take that as a luxury, where others don't have that luxury. And I think that's where we have to explore, understand, like you said, as we hand those, like anything we give to anyone, is to really follow up with them and really understand that impact. So like I said, I think, well, each number we have, there's always a story behind that number, and really understanding that story is going to be, our wins along the way and help us reshape how we do things. So
yeah,
so that's
absolutely.
That's
it's good
exciting.
too, because I think it's so important to make sure that the entire institution is included in diversity, equity, inclusion, and social justice work. And like I said, when we talk about STEM, that's a huge national conversation that's happening. But like the receptionist that sits at my front desk may be like, I don't have any impact in that initiative, that equity, diversity initiative, but I can hand out food. And I can ask people, do they have enough? And am I making a difference? Is this initiative making a difference? Because then they feel connected to that. And then they understand that their role in the college is important. And that also is another measure of diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? Who else is included in making the lift, in addressing those initiatives? So, you and I can go on and on and on and on and on about this. This is what we do, right?
Definitely. And I think we've seen, and especially like through leadership, like that you've provided, that we've provided with our colleagues, this is not a committee's work. This is not a program's work.
Right.
It's an institution's work. It's an all hands on deck. Everybody matters and everybody can play a role. This is not just for the director of equity. This is not just for the dean. This is not just for a few faculty. As you had alluded to earlier, is anybody can say, hey, can I help you? Hey, is there something we do? Hey, I just want to let you know we have all these really cool things, right. and I reflect back when I was in college, when we were in college, God, I wish I knew about those things. That would have saved a lot of stress for me. But and I think those are the things that we're learning and we're growing. And I think, like I said, I'm very excited for the future ahead of us. We have a lot of cool things. And you and I are going to have a follow-up interview about what you shared with Oculus the other day, and how we're creating those innovative experiences so people can live in other people's shoes. And we'll get to that in another interview. So I wanted to close out with just 2 bonus questions. So the first, being Data and Donuts, we wouldn't be Data and Donuts without understanding, what's your favorite donut?
Oh man, this is going to sound so bad, but my favorite donut is a plain cake donut.
Yeah, those are good. They're a mess, but they're delicious.
They're so good. They're crispy on the outside, so tender on the inside, and there's just enough sugar in that batter to just make it so good that I don't have to not have my cup of tea with it. It doesn't compete with it. It's just yum. I love it. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. Good call. And so, and then as we close out, my micro survey I've been doing of everyone is, I call it Data and Donuts, but sometimes I call it Data and Donuts. And sometimes I hear people say Data and Donuts, and you can say data 4,000 different ways. And so for me, just for my consistency, how do you usually say it? Is it data, data?
Because my name is Dana. Clearly, it is data.
That's fantastic. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for hanging out today. We're going to do this again soon. I'm really looking forward to our conversation about the innovative tools that we're going to use to help people understand DEI and social justice more. And I'll look forward to talking to you. Thank you, everybody, for listening in. And please click the button below to subscribe. And we'll talk later. Thank you so much, Dana. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.